Welcome to RankLens. Today, we count down the top 10 longest bridges in the world. Some of the world's most impressive engineering feats literally stretch for miles, sometimes dozens of them. We're talking about bridges so long they deserve their own GPS coordinates. Today, we're counting down the planet's 10 longest bridges, structures that defy geography, physics, and conventional sense. From swampy Louisiana to China's flood-prone river valleys, prepare for some seriously jaw-dropping feats of engineering. Whether built for high-speed rail or heavy traffic, each of these mega bridges solved impossible problems. Where are they located, and which one claims the undisputed crown? Let's find out. At number 10, we have the Yangcun Bridge, stretching 36 kilometers across China. This isn't just any bridge. It carries the Beijing-Tianjin Intercity Railway, China's first dedicated high-speed passenger line. When the line opened in 2008, it coincided perfectly with Beijing hosting the Summer Olympics. The timing was symbolic. China was showing the world its engineering prowess, and this viaduct became proof of concept. Its success didn't just move passengers. It established China's blueprint for connecting entire cities via massive rail viaducts. Today, high-speed rail links hubs across the country, and it all traces back to models like this one. 36 kilometers might seem long, but wait until you see what's coming. At number 9, we're diving into Louisiana's Manchac Swamp Bridge, 37 kilometers of engineering defiance. This bridge carries Interstate 55 through one of America's most remote and unforgiving ecosystems, a permanently flooded cypress swamp. Building on terrain that's half water, half quicksand, adjacent mud posed exceptional logistical nightmares. The nearby Lake Pontchartrain Causeway sits in the same region. Southeastern Louisiana is basically the bridge capital of permanently flooded America. Workers had to innovate just to place pilings and lay concrete when the ground literally doesn't stay still. The result? A 37-kilometer testament to stubbornness and problem-solving in one of the country's most hostile terrains. Not many engineers volunteer for swamp construction, but these crews made it work. At number 8, meet the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, 39 kilometers of American engineering history. This bridge held the world's longest title for decades after opening in 1956. Imagine that, for generation after generation, this was the longest bridge on Earth. The structure you see today isn't even the original. It consists of two parallel spans, with the northbound lane added in 1969 to double capacity. That expansion itself was an engineering marathon, essentially building a second massive bridge beside the first. These spans connect New Orleans suburbs to the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, serving hundreds of thousands of commuters and travelers daily. For decades, this bridge held unchallenged supremacy. Then China entered the chat. At number 7, we're heading north to China with the Beijing Grand Bridge, 48 kilometers of elevated railway engineering. This colossal viaduct anchors the northern end of the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway near Beijing. But here's what makes it remarkable. The elevated structure routes trains above Beijing's impossibly dense urban road and rail network. Imagine building a 48-kilometer bridge that has to clear highways, local rail lines, and city infrastructure without disrupting flow below. Precision engineering at continental scale. Here's a wild stat. 6 of the top 10 longest bridges in the world serve China's high-speed rail network. China didn't just build a few record-breaking bridges, it built an entire system of them. The Beijing Grand Bridge is just the opener to a pattern you're about to see dominate this countdown. At number 6, we shift gears entirely with the Bang Na Expressway, 54 kilometers of elevated road that's a rare non-rail entry. Unlike the rail viaducts you've been seeing, this is a road expressway. When it opened in 2000, it ranked among the world's longest elevated road structures, and for good reason. It essentially doubles Bangkok's road capacity in the sky. The clever part? It runs above an existing Bangkok highway, effectively creating a two-level system. Drivers below keep using the original route. Drivers above get a faster, separated expressway. It's ingenious urban problem-solving. You can't expand horizontally in a dense city, so you build vertically. At 54 kilometers, it's the longest elevated road of its kind. The next 4 entries? They're pure rail, and they get dramatically longer. At number 5, we're back to rail with the Weinan Weihe Grand Bridge, 80 kilometers spanning the flood-prone Wei River Valley. This viaduct carries the Zhengzhou-Xi'an high-speed railway, connecting 2 major Chinese cities across treacherous terrain. The Wei River Valley floods regularly. This bridge had to be elevated high enough to clear seasonal flooding while maintaining safe passenger speeds. Here's a key difference. The first 4 longest bridges all run on China's Beijing-Shanghai corridor. The Weinan Weihe sits on a different Chinese rail corridor entirely. At 80 kilometers, it's roughly half the length of the world's longest bridge, a sobering reminder of how extreme the top 4 actually are. This entry marks the transition. We're moving from impressive engineering to legitimately mind-bending scale. The countdown just entered another dimension. At number 4, we've returned to the Beijing-Shanghai corridor with the Cangde Grand Bridge, WA, 6 kilometers of elevated engineering excellence, 106 kilometers. Let that sink in. This bridge runs on the same Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway corridor as several other entries. In fact, 3 of the world's 4 longest bridges share this single rail line. That's not coincidence, it's infrastructure strategy. The Beijing-Shanghai corridor needed an entire network of massive viaducts to connect the country's 2 most important cities across impossible geography. The Cangde specifically elevates trains above the heavily farmed North China Plain, keeping high-speed service above agricultural land and small towns. At 1006 kilometers, it rivals the length of entire national motorway systems. The scale here is genuinely hard to visualize. We're getting close to the absolute longest. At number 3, we reach the Tianjin Grand Bridge, 11 full kilometers of one of the world's most ambitious rail viaducts. This is one of several massive viaducts along the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway, and it opened in 2011 as part of China's landmark high-speed rail expansion. The numbers alone are stunning. At 1114 kilometers, this single bridge is longer than many entire rail networks in other countries. The elevated structure keeps trains above the flood-prone lowlands surrounding Tianjin, China's major port city. Keeping a high-speed rail line elevated across 11.4 kilometers while avoiding settlements, navigating climate risks, and maintaining structural integrity is engineering at the absolute limits of conventional practice. We're now in the territory of the 2 longest bridges ever built. One final entry before the world record holder. What could possibly be longer than 104 kilometers? At number 2, we're traveling across the Taiwan Strait to the Changhua Kaohsiung Viaduct to 57 kilometers of elevated perfection. This bridge carries Taiwan's high-speed rail along the island's seismically active western coastal plain. Taiwan sits on one of the world's most volatile tectonic zones, yet engineers designed this viaduct to handle frequent earthquakes and typhoons, 2 catastrophes that would wreck most bridges elsewhere. The elevated design shields trains from ground motion during seismic events and keeps the structure above storm surge during typhoon season. At a mini 7 kilometers, it stretches across nearly the full length of Taiwan's densely populated western corridor, connecting millions of commuters from north to south. For years, this was the world's longest bridge. But just one entry remains, and it claims the absolute crown. Nothing on Earth is longer. At number 1, we reach the Danyang Kunshan Grand Bridge, 165 kilometers, and the Guinness World Record holder for the world's longest bridge, 165 kilometers. That's longer than the distance from San Francisco to Los Angeles. This colossal viaduct carries the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway across the Yangtze River Delta lowlands, connecting China's economic powerhouses with a single 165-kilometer steel spine. And here's a remarkable detail. A section of the bridge passes directly over Yangcun Lake, an enormous freshwater lake that would require extraordinary engineering to span. Building a bridge this long required innovations in materials, construction sequencing, and structural design that pushed engineering to its absolute limits. It's the culmination of China's high-speed rail revolution, a single structure so long, it redefines what's possible in bridge building. This is the longest bridge on Earth. What does this countdown reveal? First, bridges reshape how nations function and move economies. Second, China redefined engineering ambition. 6 of the top 10 longest bridges serve China's rail network, built in just 2 decades. Third, elevated viaducts solve impossible problems by building upward instead of around. Finally, these structures represent staggering investment and human ingenuity. Billions of people ride these bridges. The Danyang Kunshan alone carries trains for 165 uninterrupted kilometers. That's the new standard for what's possible, and that's the top 10 longest bridges in the world. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe to RankLens for more.